Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our book club review. We are still reading Selling for Dummies. So, this has been a nice read. I actually really like this week's read because it was nice and short. It was nice and short and to the point, and I like it when reads are digestible enough to, you can concentrate on it, you can focus on it, but you don't have to go into so much detail that it just becomes overwhelming. So this was a nice and concise chapter. We read chapter 11, and this one was addressing client concerns, which I guess that makes sense that it's really to the point, but it did give a lot of good tips and a lot of strategies and remedies and just heads ups, I think, for dealing with what I think the author does describe as what you should expect to happen, which is concerns when people are interested in buying what you have to offer, whether it's your artwork or whether it's the services that you're trying to sell or whatever it is that you're trying to get across to another person. So let's go through a little bit of what we talked about or what we learned in this chapter. And one of the things that he talks about right away is the fact that it is natural that your client is going to be naturally just a little bit, you know, guarded whenever you're telling them about your service or your product, just because they know that you benefit from selling the product. So just expect them to have a little bit of a natural resistance, and that's totally normal when we're asking people to spend either their time or their money or likely both. All right, it says reading your client's signals. So let's see, what did that clear up for us? It says if you have a qualified potential client, chances are he's interested, but he doesn't want what you're. But he wants you to think he's an easy sale. So these are, oh yeah, so these were, I forgot what part we were on. I was like, oh, I should do review what I read over so I know what I'm talking about. But I know what I'm talking about, I think. But this was some different ways that your customer might have to be resistant. So I just gave you some of the things to look for. So one of the things is they might not want you to think that they're an easy sale. They might be interested, but they aren't 100% clear about something. So that could be you might want to just reiterate a point or clarify something a little bit more. Another thing that it said is they might be interested, but they can't. But they need to be more educated on whatever it is that you're offering. So whatever it is, they need more tips, they need more skills, they need more information about what it is that you're selling. All right, so all three of these things tell you one thing: the prospect needs more information. So it's all about giving them more of whatever it is that they're stuck on. If it's one thing that they're concerned about, even if it's money, whatever, you do want to make sure that it is the right type of customer and they do have enough to afford it. But if they're still resistant, then what is it that they're not sure about? Make sure you clarify that whatever you're giving is good quality, and hopefully it should be, or you shouldn't be selling it, right? And let's see, distinguishing conditions from objectives. So this one was about literally if they have a true, more than a concern, but actually what it would be a condition means they really have a reason why they can't buy the product. Really is they're not your right buyer. They really don't have enough money, or they're going through something where the product is completely unnecessary to them at this time. Then you just gotta kind of realize and notice when they're saying something that's not just like a question or a concern, but it's actually something that's keeping them, like a condition that's keeping them from actually being able to get your product. And then in which case you just have to cut ties, let bygones be bygones, and let them go, hopefully on good terms. Let's see. I highlighted so much stuff. That's why it's hard for me to remember one by one, because I highlight way too much. Let's see. If you think, um, blah, 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 dealing with if somebody is believing in you, you should kind of use that to your advantage and let them know, hey, this is what you trust me, I'm somebody that you trust, you know that I'm not going to try and tell you something that is not a good product or a service that's not good. So that's double downing on, if they trust you, reiterate that and give them reason to know that because of the trust that you've already gained is a reason to trust you again. Let's see. Acknowledge their concerns. So basically, like, you do want to make sure that you are not brushing off if they say that they have a concern. If they're telling you that, hey, I have a question about this, even if even if it's a small question, you do want to make sure that you address it and you actually pay attention, look them in the eye, and write it down. Like, take it seriously, because they want to know that you're listening to them. If they don't feel like you're listening, they're probably not gonna buy the product anyway, or they're gonna not trust you as someone to do business with, or they're probably less likely to like you. So it's likely that they're gonna spend money if they don't feel like you care about who they are or what they're saying, what their concerns are. You just want to make sure that you are listening to what their concerns are, and take a note and write it down. Let's see. So I'm not spending too much time on everything I highlighted. So let's see. Do clients get to answer their own concerns? Oh yeah, they talked about like a technique that you can use to try and get them to answer their own questions, like especially if it's a couple, like a married couple or a partnership. If one person asks something, just give them a beat, and the other person is likely to answer that question for them. And it's better for you as the person who's like the seller to let their partner answer that concern, because they're going to trust the partner more than they trust you. So if you're say you're selling a house, which you're probably not, but what if you are, and say, oh, I don't like that door over there, and then you give it a second, the partner's like, oh, well, that's easy to replace, something simple like that. The partner often like will banter, because that's kind of what partners do anyway. So give them a second if it's two people that are together, and they might answer the question that one of your customers has before you even have to. So I thought that was a pretty good tip. Don't argue with your client. I think that's a good one. And this is like, it makes sense, it's logical, but I think it's something that's easy to happen, especially with your art, because you're going to be sensitive about your art. I mean, we all kind of a little bit sensitive. So if you feel like somebody doesn't appreciate what you do, or they're minimizing what you do, or they think that you'll do it for a price that you feel is offensive, it can be easy to feel insulted, but you have to just resist the temptation to respond in any sort of a negative way. Just let it just roll off your back like a water off a duck, and you have to just let that go, and not argue with them. Just address them always in a professional way, regardless of what they're saying or how they're trying to maybe in their mind negotiate, but it could be offensive to you. Just don't argue with them, and don't minimize concerns. We talked about that already. And let's see, it talked about like, what were these steps for handling concerns in 6 easy steps. So the easy steps were hearing them out. So that means just like listening and feed it back to them. So you're saying, what you're saying is blah blah blah. You're gonna tell them back what they said to you, but you're gonna say it in like you're just gonna repeat it so that they know that you're listening, and you're gonna question that. So you guys also gonna say, is that the only thing that is making you not want to buy this? Is that the only concern you have? Is there something else to it? So you just want to like clarify. I guess that would be mostly what that's trying to tell you, and answer it like resolve whatever the question is that they have, or the concern that they have. You want to make sure that you're able to resolve it, or else maybe your product is really, or service that you're offering is really not right for that person. You should be able to resolve whatever the question is. Doesn't mean that you're changing anything about your product, including the price. You're not changing that, but you're validating and justifying why it costs this, because I am this good quality, or I use this type of quality, or because you'll get this benefit, or you're just letting them know what the benefit is for the cost. And confirming your answer. So you're just going to reiterate after you explain the value, like, all right, does that clarify everything? Is it all good? Is there anything else you had question about that? You're just going to like make sure that that is squashed and resolved. And the last one it said was the by the way. So you're adding like by the way. So basically you're moving on to the next point. Once you resolve one issue, like one concern, and you make sure that that's squashed, you move on to the next thing that, or the next benefit of whatever it is that you're selling to them, or the service that you're selling to them. You're making sure that you don't stay in that spot. Okay, well, this is resolved, and then you just stay there. No, you just like make sure that you move it along and you keep going. And that was it. It just said, like, one last point was like, if someone just protests too much, or they argue too much, or they just have like, they're questioning you about everything and they're still like, they won't let up, then just leave, let them go. It's not worth it. And they're probably somebody that's not going to be fun to work with anyway, if they completely doubt what you're offering, even if you're telling them the benefits, you're telling them like the perks or the quality or whatever, and they still have questions about it, and they like constantly like, well, what about this? Well, then just, they're not worth it. You gotta like have your boundaries, even when you're like trying to offer someone something of yourself. It's still, you want to be able to make sure that you're keeping your confidence, you're keeping your value of your own self and your own products and your own services that you're offering. So that was chapter 10. No, that was chapter 11. That was chapter 11, addressing client concerns. It's a good one. It sucks. Nobody likes to have to, go over that kind of thing with a client, like figuring out, like, their pushbacks to whatever it is that you're trying to offer. But it's just part of the deal, and it makes sense. So this was good. It was a nice, quick read. And next week we'll be covering closing sales, which is a very important part that we all need to know and we all need to get better at. So we'll do closing sales next week. And I will be doing BizDev tomorrow. So I will see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And until I see you again, be grateful, live balanced, and be yourself. Bye-bye.